Welcome to Crazy Stupid Midlife. I'm Renee.
And I'm Dannielle.
We're two midlife besties here to laugh, rant, and remind you that midlife is not a crisis, it's a plot twist. Welcome to Crazy Episode 1. So today we are going to cover everything that made us decide to put the word crazy in our title. That covers so many different things. We're going to start off with anxiety,
Rage,
depression,
panic,
grief,
irritability,
crying.
no sleeping.
What else? Let's see here.
Anything that will make you feel crazy, do crazy things, and act crazy.
Yes. Impulsive anger, wanting to kick and throw things, popping off, which has become my new favorite thing to do.
And mine is an anger ball. I have like this little fire anger ball inside of me, and that thing gets leashed out pretty often.
I actually love the emoji of, not the emoji, I'm sorry, the Bitmoji. For those of you who have Bitmojis, it's this woman.
Well, I would have never known the difference.
My Bitmoji, which is me, and coming out from my head is this flame. My whole head is on fire, and my face looks like I'm about ready to kill somebody. And whenever someone pisses me off in my family, I send them that Bitmoji. That way they know I'm really, really, really mad. Even via text, I'm popping off. So yeah,
I don't have a Bitmoji, but I have this picture in my mind when I have to keep my composure and the anger ball is on fire. I just like put my two middle fingers up.
There's a Bitmoji for that too, by the way. And I
just stand there and just smile with my fuck you. And I just keep saying it over and over, but I'm totally composed on the outside.
That's amazing.
But dying on the inside. And that has helped me in several situations.
I think you're raging on the inside, but yes. Yes. Well, why don't you start off with anxiety? I'll talk about my anxiety too, but mine is very, very specific. So how about you start off with yours and then I'll talk about mine.
Well, I think I've had anxiety forever. I think I've even had anxiety when I was little, but I didn't know what it was. And then when I went to nursing school, it got magnified. It was on fire. And I was put on Lexapro and like a blood pressure medication because they thought it would help with my panic attacks.
Heard that. Yeah.
And to be honest, I think it made them worse. And when I was on Lexapro, I'm not saying it's good or bad for anyone, but for me, I'm very sensitive to medications. And so when I went on it, I was like lethargic. I had no emotion. I couldn't get excited or sad. I was just flat. So it didn't really work for me. But I think how I got through having anxiety is learning more about it, why I would get it, how I would get it. And again, this is when I didn't know anything about perimenopause. This was all happening, and I'm just thinking it's because of life. This is because I'm in school. This is because I'm a mom of 3. This is because I have a husband who works all the time. I'm just anxiety. And yes, that may be true, but it's the constant going in your head, just like worried and worried. You can't sleep, and there's just always something going on. There's never a relaxed moment. And then you get into the panic of you can't control this moment. And then you just spiral and you feel like you can't breathe and it takes your breath away. And for the last few years, I've been able to manage it better. I know that for me to feel better and not have anxiety, I have to work out. I have to be active for my brain, and I need to sleep. So sleep is a huge one, especially when we talk about perimenopause, because most people are waking up at 2, 3 in the morning every single night, and no woman is getting a full night's sleep in perimenopause. And just so you know, perimenopause is 7 to 10 years. Yeah, then you go really into menopause, which is defined as not having a period for 1 year, and you still transition after that.
Right.
So this is a long
journey,
and I don't think we need to be so miserable.
Right.
So anxiety has really, really been a part of my life, and it's just gotten worse, but also gotten better now that I'm older and I know more, and we've done more research and for this podcast. So we'll talk about remedies for anxiety and also for the rage, for the depression, for the panic, for the irritability, and the sleep depression or deprivation. We'll have solutions for all of that, but that will be at a later time. Right now, we just want everyone to know what it looks like when you have crazy in midlife.
Yeah. When you were talking, it made me remember, I actually went on Lexapro too for a short period of time, and it didn't work for me either. My issue was I ruminated for a really long time. This was during my teaching program, and I don't know, it was really bad. I don't know where it came from. It would be to a point where I would be ruminating about something, and my kids would ask me a question in the car. We'd be driving, and they'd say, hey, da-da-da-da-da, and I was ruminating, and I would get so angry because I would have to stop ruminating to answer their question.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized I needed to get some help for it. So I talked to a therapist, and I couldn't stop the ruminating. We would do all this talk therapy, the cognitive behavioral therapy, all of that. And I couldn't stop. It just was like super, super, super strong. And I would ruminate typically about like if I hurt someone's feelings or if I upset someone, because I'm a people pleaser at heart and I always want to keep the peace, and I never want to hurt someone's feelings. So I would ruminate about situations like that, and I would just be on a hamster wheel of rumination. So they finally tried Lexapro. They recommended Lexapro, my therapist. So I asked my doctor, and she gave it to me. And I would say it helped with my ruminating, kind of calmed that down. But what would happen was I would have anxious dreams at night. And it was really bad, where somebody was chasing me and I was going into one room and shutting the door, but the door would disappear and I'd be stuck in that room and I couldn't find a way out. Or one time I had a dream that a lion was chasing me, and it was always anxious dreams, which was really, really weird because the Lexapro was supposed to help with that. It did during the day, but my subconscious was like, nope, we're still here to be anxious for you.
I'm not going to let you get away with it.
So I went off the Lexapro, and my therapist recommended EMDR. So I don't know the exact breakdown of those words, but EMDR is a special kind of therapy where it's like eye movement
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yes. So I did EMDR. I did it for about maybe 3 or 4 months, and that was life-changing for me. I have since recommended it to several people. It literally cured my rumination. I don't really ruminate anymore at all, knock on wood. So that really helped my rumination. And basically it's a therapy where you meet with a therapist and you try to recall like a very early memory that caused the emotion that that's giving you stress, and they help you reprocess it using eye movement, like a treatment where you watch something with your eyes. It's very interesting, and again, probably something for another episode, but I just remembered that when you were talking about the Lexapro. And for me, my anxiety now is really around medical things. It's gotten worse. My husband is a dentist, and he says I am his most intense patient, one of the most, which is crazy for me to think about because I really do trust him as a dentist, and it has nothing to do with him, but I get very anxious around medical procedures. In fact, my OBGYN was explaining a procedure to me that he wants to try potentially after I have an ultrasound for my heavy periods related to the perimenopause. And he showed me the tool where he has to insert it and take like a sample of my uterine lining or something, and I literally had to lie down on the table and start fanning myself.
Have him show you that tool?
I don't know why he brought it out. I was like, I don't need to know this. Like, I really don't.
Thank you, TMI.
Because the answer's no, by the way. Like, you're not doing that. Thank you very much for your time and your energy, but no. Hell no. So I have anxiety about medical things. I don't like to see people in physical pain, and I don't like to be in physical pain. It gives me a lot of anxiety. So that would be my anxiety. Which leads us to rage. And wow, we probably could have a whole episode on rage.
Oh, I can recall so many times sitting in a ball in my kitchen in front of my children, just holding my head and just being like, I just can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore. I can't handle this anymore. And it was after I had screamed and like just lost my shit on everybody. And this was when my kids were little. Didn't know about perimenopause, had no idea that was happening. And I just thought, again, it was just all life's normal stressors, and this was how it was coming out. But my son was over last night. He's 19, and I was talking about the podcast and telling him that what we're doing and explaining to him what it was about. And I said, "Do you remember?" Because he was the one that was usually there for some reason, always that son. And I said, "Do you remember when I would just be in a ball, so upset, crying, and just not knowing how to get through that moment?" And he said, he just said, he looked at me kind of like, "Oh," and it's even great for him to see, like, my mom wasn't going crazy. She was going through this thing that women go through. And then it was like a light in his eye. Like maybe even he thought it was him that was doing something to make me go crazy like that. But it wasn't. It was because I just had no potential to get through that moment rationally.
Right.
And if I had the knowledge to know this is something that every woman is going through, and not every woman will experience rage.
Right.
But there's probably a good portion of us that will. And if I knew exactly what it was, I think I would have been able to handle it better because I would have had tools and insight and somewhere to go and figure it out. But
well, yeah, and you would have figured out too, like, this too shall pass, and I'm having this moment, but I'm going to get through it, and it's not my family, and it's not even me. It's my hormones. It's your hormones are going crazy, roller coaster. Like, that is such an accurate way to describe it. It's like when girls get their period, right? When they're like 12, 13, some 11, even younger, but when they get their period, they have so many hormonal surges going on at that time. So they're moody. One minute they love you. The next minute you're like, get out. I hate you. Like, what is going on? It's very crazy, right? Like, my daughter's going through it right now. And I'm also going through perimenopause, which, well, that's also a very crappy situation for my poor husband to be in. But the reality is she is surging up and I am surging down, but I'm also sometimes surging up because I still have a period every month.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely producing estrogen, but I have really heavy periods. They call it crime scene period, which is super, super accurate. Like, my whole family knows now that sometimes when they're walking to the toilet, they're going to see a drop of blood.
Yeah.
I mean, how gross is that? But I don't even see it. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. Crime scene period. Anyways, on to the rage. So
that would make anyone rageful.
Right?
Yes.
It's embarrassing.
Crime scene.
I actually have a story where I had such a heavy period in December that we were all at Chipotle having a family lunch, and I got up to go get more drinks, and my husband was like, "Honey, sit down." And I sat down, and I had dripped on the ground, and he got up and wiped it off the Chipotle ground. Literally.
My gosh.
Crime scene period. Anyways, moving on to rage. So for me, I find that I am very, very protective of myself. And when I think somebody is trying to hurt my feelings, which, by the way, it's very easy right now. If I think somebody's trying to hurt my feelings or tease me or make fun of me or bother me or poke at me, I just get super pissed off. Like, why poke the bear? Why poke the bear? I mean, I am not capable of being teased and made fun of right now, at least by my family. My friends are different, but my daughter the other day, I can think of the last time I really, really got mad and popped off. I was blending a smoothie, and so it was loud. And she snuck up behind me and said, "Boo," really, really, really loud, right? Scared the living bejesus out of me. And I jumped, my heart went up, my heart rate went up, and that part didn't make me rage. What made me rage was she laughed at me after, and she thought it was hysterical how mad I got. Oh man, I just went freaking crazy psycho. Said so many things I had to apologize for later. Said the F word numerous times. My husband was like, "What is going on?" I think I even flipped them both off and went upstairs to my room, shut the door, locked the door. And I wanted to leave, but I literally could not drive a vehicle. I would have driven it into a wall. I was that mad.
Yeah.
And I knew that I couldn't drive because part of me was like, I should go get an ice cream or something, like something to make me feel better. I couldn't drive. I could not drive. I ended up having to text a friend of mine to calm me down because I thought I was going to be out of my mind. And it was because my daughter laughed at me and it made me feel stupid and embarrassed, and I just exploded.
Yeah.
It was really
and
bad.
If you know that you're feeling this way because of like just your age or where you are, does it help at all? Do you feel like if it was 3 years ago when you had no idea what was going on to now, do you chalk it up to like, okay, I'm just in perimenopause, and you give yourself grace, and you know how to handle it, or what's different between knowing what you're going through and not knowing what you're going through?
Well, I think part of it is empowering in a way, because I think a few years ago I would have just let that go. I don't think that she should have laughed at me, honestly. If I look back now, I don't think it was a very nice thing to do. I don't think that's something I would have done to my mom.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe this is a generational thing, but because kids are more bold, and they're not as afraid of their parents. At least mine aren't afraid of me, clearly.
Right.
But I think that I could have handled it without all the swear words and the middle fingers in the air. I was, when you said out of body experience, that was an out of body experience for me. Yeah. I knew I was going crazy, but I also felt threatened. And I think that's where I'm done feeling threatened, and I don't want to feel that way. And maybe now I kind of try to say, you know what, I'm feeling rage coming on, so I'm going to go upstairs, because otherwise I'm going to say something I don't mean. And I'm not trying to punish the whole family, but like I also don't want to have to apologize for my behavior in a couple of hours. Yeah. Because I'm tired of that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think part of it is empowering because I have more balls, but I think I don't want to keep having to apologize for the way I behave, because I did feel bad. I shouldn't have said those things. I shouldn't have flipped off my husband and my daughter. I mean, it was insane, but I was out of my mind, upset, angry, and pissed off.
Yeah.
And I think that was absolutely hormonal.
And it's so hard. It's so hard. No matter what. Like, no one wants to act like that. No one wants to be on the other side. No one wants to feel.
It took me 2 hours to calm myself down.
Yeah.
My heart rate was like, I remember taking my heart rate with my Apple Watch, and it was like 82, which is really high for me for just sitting on a couch.
Right.
I was so angry. I could not calm myself down. I had to take deep breaths. I think that's actually when I started my new yoga journey, which I have done yoga before, but I found a yoga video and I was like, I have to do something to calm myself down. And I have since been doing yoga every single night using a video for like 25, 30 minutes, because it's helping me sleep and it's helping me regulate my nervous system. You keep hearing about this everywhere. I'm a school teacher, so it's all over the place. How can we help students regulate? How can we co-regulate? How can we, maybe they're dysregulated. That's a big term right now. But it's a thing, and we have to have coping strategies for regulating our nervous system, because it's not good for it to ramp up to that degree all the time.
Yeah.
Or several times a day. It's just not good.
Yeah. I as I hear you talking, the biggest thing that comes to my mind right now is like, I feel so sorry for us women. Like,
yeah.
It's so sad. Like, look at all that work that you have to go through. Because your hormones are crazy. I'm just being a woman. You have to regulate yourself. You have to figure out tools to make yourself calm down. Like, it's so much work.
And you have to consider everybody else's emotions, because if I do go upstairs, what I usually hear on my way upstairs is, oh, there she goes again, going upstairs. Well, what do you guys want me to do? You want me to stay down here? Because if I stay down here, I'm going to pop off. I'm going to pop off big time. I'm going to be flipping off everybody and I'm going to go crazy. You know what I mean? Like, let me go upstairs. Why do you need me down here if I'm going to, make you upset or, make myself upset? But yes, my husband, if he gets mad like that, or maybe men in general, they're mad. Women, we're bitchesses and every other term. We're crazy. We're psycho.
We're lots of crazy.
We're psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're psycho. Leave us alone then. Let us go upstairs and breathe.
Yeah, so I just feel sad for us sometimes. It's just a lot of work to be a woman. We take on so much, and we're expected to be
beautiful, calm,
just everything.
peaceful.
It's just not, it's
nurturing.
Not reality, It's not. We'll talk about this in later episodes, but there's this wonderful CEO who talks about thirds. And I really, truly believe in the thirds of how you're supposed to give yourself grace. But at this moment, like, just hearing your stories, and I'm sure everyone else who is listening is feeling overwhelmed by what we're going through. Sometimes it's very lonely, and you can have a family of 20 and you feel so alone because you don't, it's just a work. You have to go and help yourself figure out how to get yourself out of it.
Right.
And that's so much. And then you have to, like you said, feel guilty
for leaving.
What you just, the trail of the wrath that you just left behind you.
Or if you leave, so that you don't leave a trail of wrath. It's like there's really no answer. And I think part of this for me has been, I read the book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins that she wrote with her daughter. And it's really helped me in so many ways because now when I'm walking up the stairs in that moment and I can hear my family being like, oh, there she goes again, going upstairs. I just say, let them be disappointed, Renee. You have to go to your room and take some time to yourself so that you don't do something that is going to make you sad that you have to apologize for. So I let them be disappointed and I let me calm myself down.
And Mel Robbins is a great book but it's not only just let them, you have to let yourself do something too.
Right.
It's a 2-part thing. So it's great. That's really great. But again, it's a conscious effort to remember to do that and do it. And that's a lot of work. It's exhausting.
It is a lot of work.
So kudos to us women. So we've touched on anxiety, rage, irritability, some panic.
Now depression.
Depression.
That's a good one.
I sometimes get confused on what I feel, if it's actual like hormones or again if life situations. So this one hits hard. I don't know. I wouldn't say I am depressed. I really enjoy life. I get a burst of, yoo-hoo, let's go every day. I'm pretty excited about my life. But like I was just touching on the thirds, I think a third of the time I can be kind of sad and not know where to go from that point. Or a third of the time I can feel amazing, great, motivated, ready to go. I'm going to kill it. I'm on top of the world. And a third of the time I'm just kind of flat and okay with whatever's going on. And I think that's healthy, like a healthy balance. But the times that I feel kind of sad, it could be the hormones. Like, who knows where I am in the cycle? You never really know.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to recognize that when I feel low like that, I make myself get up and out and exercise because that is what saves me most of the time. I don't know if I have clinical depression.
I think clinical depression is if you have those feelings for, I want to say it's even like more than 2 weeks straight.
Yeah.
I think that's what we learned anyway. I took like a youth mental health training class last year. As it was an optional training for where I was teaching. And we learned a lot about clinical depression and like what makes it actual clinical depression.
Right. It has to be for a long period of time.
And it has to be like, you lose pleasure in doing things that normally bring you pleasure.
Right.
You're sad most of the time. You're sleeping more. And it has to extend more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Time. So I think it's like waves,
Right.
And I think it is in conjunction with hormones. At least for me, I know the 2 days before my period, I'm going to be feeling very sad, purposeless, and why am I here? And life is doom, and I'm so sad.
Yeah.
And it's out of nowhere, and often I will feel like crying. I feel sad. I feel lonely. I feel like sleeping more and being by myself. I withdraw. It doesn't last more than a couple of days, and now I do try to really track my cycle, which is very difficult because it's irregular. But I try to write down, like when I had my period, I try to count the days. I have very short cycles in between my periods. So like instead of 28 days, it's more like 22 days, sometimes 20 days. But if I find that I'm feeling sad, I try and count backwards. And I'm like, okay, I did have my period a bit of like 3 weeks ago. I'm probably due for my period. So my depression, I would say, is the same as you. It's not like it's debilitating, and it's not like I don't enjoy my life. I do enjoy my life. I love my job. I love my family. I feel very fortunate for many things in my life, but I do have waves of sadness that are unexplainable and out of nowhere. and just make me kind of want to withdraw. One thing that I am doing lately, though, is I am letting myself have that time. If I want to sit in bed and watch a TV show, or if I want to just have time to myself, instead of fighting it and being like, no, you should do this, or no, you should do that, I kind of just let myself have that time. And like you said, with the working out, yoga has been really helping me lately. And even this past period, I had a very hard Saturday where my period hit really hard. It was heavy. I had cramps. My back hurt. I felt like I was in labor. And I gave myself the grace to lay in bed. I watched shows. And then I did a 25-minute yoga video for menstrual cramps. I found one.
Amazing.
And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And I just let myself have the day.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one thing that I'm doing now is if my body wants a break, I need to give my body the break
I agree.
that it needs.
That's important. I definitely think that's important. But also, I do want to touch on, even though we're going through the emotional roller coaster of our hormones, life does throw things at us that are sometimes unavoidable, that can cause, like fights with your husbands, or something going on with your kids, or taking care of your parents, or whatever it is, like problems at your job. Sometimes I think those stressors are really weigh heavy for me. They really weigh heavy on when I'm having that cycle of depression or sadness. It's hard for me it's almost like I have to push all of the life stuff aside and just focus on the next 2 days of trying to get better for my brain.
Yeah.
And then I can deal with life, because sometimes I'm overwhelmed by it all. Like it's like I want to go to my room because it's too many things at one time. And that could be my hormones, but also maybe it's just a lot of life stuff too. Mm-hmm. And it's overwhelming. And in midlife, you get more. You have your parents, you have older children problems, you have finances, you have, health issues. And there's so many more things going on that I think that's why there's also a lot of irritability and depression, because you don't know how to unpack it all. Mm-hmm. It's
well, and it is, like you said, a lot of overstimulation. Like when our kids were little and they were tired, and someone wanted to play with them, and someone wanted to talk to them, and they heard a noise, and overstimulation is a thing for adults too. And I think I am way more sensitive to it now in midlife. I used to be able to handle a lot of things at once. Now I can't back up my car with the music on too loud.
I agree.
What is that?
Oh, I agree.
I'm like, let me turn the music down so I can back up.
Yes.
Like, what is that?
Oh, yeah. And if two people are trying to talk to me at one time, I lose it, because I can't focus and I can't hear them anymore. I have to shove one out. I have to only focus on one thing. When I drive to work, my commute, I drive an hour and 15 minutes twice a week. I will tell you, sometimes there is no music.
Oh, I love that.
Nothing happening.
Yeah, same.
And I just enjoy the peace and quiet of nothing.
I agree.
No one's talking to me. No one wants anything. I don't have to think or form a thought. I just have to drive. Yeah. That's it. One task. And it's kind of sometimes my favorite time of the week.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I prefer to drive that way too now. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast or I'll listen to music, but honestly, I love to sit in silence when I drive. And it's kind of my moment to just relax and chill. Decompress. And also pay attention, because a lot of people aren't paying attention when they're driving anymore. You have to be aware of, people when you're driving. And I feel like I am way more focused and intentional in the car when I don't have all those other things popping in. I did want to touch on crying, though, because we were talking about depression, and I have here, why so much crying, ? I have that written down. And what I have noticed is I cry so easy. I cry when anything is emotional, and it could be in a good way. Like if I'm watching an Instagram reel of two people who I have no idea who they are, and they're having this like emotional moment, and someone embraces the other one in a hug, I'm like crying tears. And my kids will look at me and they'll be like, are you crying? Or we'll be watching a movie, definitely will cry. Anytime, it's either romance, I love romance, or a parent-child dynamic will cause me to cry, or even a friendship dynamic. will cause me to cry. Just the other day, I was in Shavasana at the end of a yoga session, and I started crying during Shavasana, like picturing myself when I was little. I am so emotionally hypersensitive, and I cry at the drop of a hat.
I think I'm a little guarded with that emotion. I mean, I will cry, but no one ever sees me cry. I don't know why. I think I just always have to feel like I have that strength and that strong front. But I cry when my boys are together and they're, I went on just by myself. I went to Santa Barbara with my younger son, who's 19, to visit my 20-year-old son. And they were driving and I was sitting in the back seat and they were just like talking, because they don't live with each other anymore. And they were talking and it was just so cool. And there was these two grown men and adults, and I just was crying out of sadness that they weren't in my home anymore.
Yeah.
But happiness that I created these beautiful boys and men, and they're, flying and off and being wonderful humans. And I was crying really hard in the back seat, and we had stopped, and I think they had asked me a question. I was like, and I just put my face down and wiped my eyes and just kind of sucked it up and was fine. But yeah, there is a lot of crying, and I think I don't give myself grace to cry in front of anyone. Like, I just don't ever let anyone see me. But I will tell you a funny story about crying. When my son did go off to college, the first one, I would cry in my car in the driveway when I would get home, and cry and cry and cry. My neighbor, sweet neighbor, would always see me sitting in the car. And the first time, I think I had told him I was really upset crying in the car because my son's leaving and going off to college. And every moment I would look at my son, I would think, is this the last time I'm going to see him do the dishes or whatever? And so it just made me so sad. And my neighbor would be like, just thumbs up to me after that. He'd always see me sitting there crying, and he'd be like, are you okay? And I'd give him a thumbs up, like, I'm okay. And it was just really sweet. But those are the times that I would cry. I'm just not like a all the time crier, but I definitely get emotion, but I push it down.
Well, I remember reading this, and so while you were talking, I went and found it. And the Dare It Say It by Naomi Watts, there was a part about crying that kind of resonated with me. And when you were talking, I remembered it, so I found it. And I'm going to read a segment of it just because I think it's relevant. Sometimes that unexplained sadness feels like grief. Part of it is for your father who died 10 years ago, and that grief never really left you. But I think that it's mourning for other things you've lost. This is where it gets really interesting. Life creates a certain amount of bereavement with every day that you live. You store it up. It becomes part of you. You can't let that take over, because that's when you despair, which is what you don't want to do. You want to find strength to live with grief without denying it. And one way you can handle and live with it without denying it, cry. Cry as much as you can. Dr. Vora, someone who she referenced in this, calls crying free therapy. Oh, but it took me so long to be okay with crying, unless I was being paid on camera. Remember, I grew up in England and Australia, where visible emotion of any kind was frowned upon, and we had to keep a stiff upper lip. Absurd, I know. And then she goes on to talk about how she does cry all the time. But I loved this reference where Dr. Vora called crying free therapy, because at least for me, and my kids know, like, I cry, but I do feel a little bit better. It's a release. It's like the twerking.
It's an emotion.
It's a different type of release.
It's definitely a type of release. And you just reminded me, so I see a therapist also. I haven't lately, but probably a few months ago, we were having a hard time with our daughter. And she said, you need to go in your bathroom, close the door, and cry. And just cry and let it out, and don't stop. And I was like, I do not need to do that. What? No, I don't. And I instead of the bathroom, I do it in my car when I'm by myself driving. And so she was right. It's just the wrong place. But yeah, she was right.
Not the bathroom, but the car. But you know what's interesting too? Sometimes when I am in an intense exercise session, I will cry. And it's like random. I'm like, why am I crying? Like, this feels so good. But I think there's something about the exercise, and it has to be intense. Like, it can't just be like a walk. Like, if I'm walking and I pick up to a jog and then I get into like a good run, I will start crying during the run. And I'm like, what is going on? And I think it's just like buildup of emotions, and it's just coming out when I'm having a surge of like endorphin release, maybe.
Absolutely.
I'm not really sure. The science behind it would be very interesting to me. But that's why I also think it happened when I was in Shavasana, because I was having a release in Shavasana and I was so relaxed. And the yoga video, I follow this one instructor in particular, and she always plays the best music. And it was like a piano playing. And I just remember feeling at peace. And for some reason that released some tears for me. But I'm finding that, you know what? Crying is a form of therapy, and I'm letting myself cry. And if I am touched by a show or whatever, whatever. I'm just like, I'm emotional. What can I say? I'm emotional on both ends of the spectrum. I can rage and double middle finger you, and the next minute I'm crying and want to cuddle with you. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but at least it's both ways. I'm not just rage. I'm also tender, and I'm also affectionate, and I'm also loving. I just have a roller coaster of emotions going on right now.
It's just crazy.
It's just crazy.
There's no explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you teach me to let my emotions out a little bit more. So I'm going to practice that.
Yeah, it does help, honestly. So there's a midlife tip. Let yourself cry, be it in the car, in Shavasana, in the bathroom, working out while you're in the middle of a run. I don't know. I kind of just let it out, and I think it is a
healthy
tip, and I think it is a strategy.
Yeah. So we just want to say thank you for listening to Welcome to Crazy, and hope that you found some relation to what we're all going through. And don't forget to subscribe and send us your emails of suggestions or crazy stories as well. We always like to hear that. Because midlife may be crazy and stupid, but at least we're all in it together.
Yes.
Remember to submit your what the fuck moments and tips on getting through midlife. Thank you for listening.
And again, our email is hello@crazystupidmidlife.com. And stay tuned. Next time we are going to be tackling Welcome to Stupid. Until next time.